Hare Krishna. So this is Shravanam Diaries podcast and I'm your host Sulalita Devidasi, and we are continuing to read the Nectar of Instruction by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Text 2, page number 13. Atyahara prayasascha prajalponiyamagraha janasangascha laulyamcha shadbir bhaktir vinashyati. Atyahara, overeating or too much collecting. Prayasa, over-endeavoring. Cha, and prajalpa, idle talk. Niyama, rules and regulations. Agraha, too much attachment to, or agraha, too much neglect of. Jana Sangha, association with worldly minded persons. Cha, and laulyam, ardent longing or greed. Cha, and shadbi, by these 6. Bhakti, devotional service. Vinashyati, is destroyed. Translation: one's devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities. 1. Eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required. 2. Over-endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain. 3. Talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters. 4. Practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement. Or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically. 5. Associating with worldly-minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And 6. Being greedy for mundane achievements. Purport: human life is meant for plain living and high thinking. Since all conditioned living beings are under the control of the Lord's third energy, this material world is designed so that one is obliged to work. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has 3 primary energies or potencies. The first is called Antaranga Shakti, or the internal potency. The second energy is called Tatastha Shakti, or the marginal potency. The third is called Bahiranga Shakti, or the external potency. The living entities constitute the marginal potency, and they are situated between the internal and external potencies. Being subordinate as eternal servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Jivatmas, or atomic living entities, must remain under the control of either the internal or external potency. When they are under the control of the internal potency, they display their natural, constitutional activity, namely, constant engagement in the devotional service of the Lord. This is stated in Bhagavad Gita 9.13. Mahatmanastu mampartha devim prakritim ashritah bhajantyananya manaso gyatva bhutadim avyayam. Quote: O son of Pritha, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, inexhaustible and original. Unquote. The word Mahatma refers to those who are broad-minded, not cripple-minded. Cripple-minded persons, always engaged in satisfying their senses, sometimes expand their activities in order to do good for others through some ism, like nationalism, humanitarianism, or altruism. They may reject personal sense gratification for the sense gratification of others, like the members of their family, community, or society, either national or international. Actually, all this is extended sense gratification. This is a very key point. Actually, all this is extended sense gratification from personal to communal to social. This may all be very good from the material point of view, but such activities have no spiritual value. The basis of such activity is sense gratification, either personal or extended. Only when a person gratifies the senses of the Supreme Lord can he be called a Mahatma or broad-minded person. Jai. In the above quoted verse from Bhagavad Gita, the words Daivim Prakritim refer to the control of the internal potency or pleasure potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This pleasure potency is manifested as Srimati Radharani, or her expansion Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. When the individual, jiva, souls, are under the control of the internal potency, their only engagement is the satisfaction of Krishna or Vishnu. This is the position of a Mahatma. If one is not a Mahatma, he is a Duratma, or a cripple-minded person. Such mentally cripple-minded Duratmas are put under the control of the Lord's external potency, Mahamaya. Indeed, all living entities within this material world are under the control of Mahamaya, whose business is to subject them to the influence of threefold miseries: Adhidaiva Adhidaivika klesha, sufferings caused by the demigods, such as droughts, earthquakes, and storms. Adhibhautika klesha, sufferings caused by other living entities like insects or enemies. And Adhyatmika klesha, sufferings caused by one's own body and mind, such as mental and physical infirmities. Daiva bhutatma hetava, Daiva bhutatma hetava. The conditioned soul subjected to these three miseries by the control of the external energy suffer various difficulties. We all have experience of that. The main problem confronting the conditioned souls is the repetition of birth, old age, disease, and death. In the material world, one has to work for the maintenance of the body and soul. But how can one perform such work in a way that is favorable for the execution of Krishna consciousness? Everyone requires possessions such as food, grains, clothing, money, and other things necessary for the maintenance of the body. But one should not collect more than necessary for his actual basic needs. If this natural principle is followed, there will be no difficulty in maintaining the body. According to nature's arrangement, the living entities lower on the evolutionary scale do not eat or collect more than necessary. Consequently, in the animal kingdom there is generally no economic problem or scarcity of necessities. If a bag of rice is placed in a public place, birds will come to eat a few grains and go away. A human being, however, will take away the whole bag. He will eat all his stomach and can hold and then try to keep the rest in storage. According to scriptures, such collecting of more than necessary, atyahara, is prohibited. Now the entire world is suffering because of it. I guess 2020 really showed us when there was a panic buying in the shops, and then some people didn't get some basic necessities, and they were like, well, congrats to all those whose basic groceries will be expiring, because you can't stock up, forever. There's date of expiry, and people should have been less, basically collecting not more than necessary, and then some people would not be deprived of some basic things. Collecting and eating more than necessary also causes prayasa, or unnecessary endeavor. By God's arrangement, anyone in any part of the world can live very peacefully if he has some land and a milk cow. There's no need for man to move from one place to another to earn a livelihood, for one can produce food grains locally and get milk from cows. That can solve all economic problems. Fortunately, man has been given higher intelligence for the cultivation of Krishna consciousness, or the understanding of God, one's relationship with Him, and the ultimate goal of life, love of God. Unfortunately, so-called civilized man, not caring for God realization, utilizes his intelligence to get more than necessary and simply eats to satisfy the tongue. By God's arrangement, there is sufficient scope for the production of milk and grains for human beings all over the world. But instead of using their higher intelligence to cultivate God consciousness, so-called intelligent men misuse their intelligence to produce many unnecessary, unwanted things. Thus, factories, slaughterhouses, brothels, and liquor shops are open. If people are advised not to collect too many goods, eat too much, or work unnecessarily to possess artificial amenities, they think they are being advised to return to a primitive way of life. Generally, people don't like to accept plain living and high thinking. That is their unfortunate position. Well, we're going to stop here for today, and there's a lot of food for thought for somebody who hears Srila Prabhupada's books for the first time, and for me it's a beautiful reminder of the beauty of plain living and high thinking. Yes. So, thank you so much for tuning in. The link to this book is in the description. Please read it along with us and share it with your friends. And we shall see you next time. Hare Krishna.